coach right up the road at Illinois State in 1970. John Thompson, the first black coach to win an NCAA title with Georgetown back in 1984. George Raveling, you and our own Manny Jackson, the first black with controlling ownership of an entertainment organization. These men all received opportunities as a result of the path that Martin Luther King Jr. laid. I also couldn't help but try to imagine Dr. King's thoughts as he contemplated what his role would be in African Americans' quest for equality. Those thoughts most likely heightened when he was asked to go to Montgomery back in 1955 by the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights, an affiliate for the SCLC. By no means am I trying to compare my being here to Dr. King being in the environments that he put himself in. I only parallel because I envision him as having those same thoughts quite frequently. No, I don't have time. Why me? On December 5th, 1955, Martin Luther King Jr. catapulted himself to the forefront of America's civil rights movement. This was the date of one of his first major addresses. He spoke to nearly 5,000 Montgomery residents about boycotting the city's bus systems. That next day, nearly 90% of Montgomery's black citizens stayed off the buses. Prior to delivering his speech, did Dr. King know how overwhelming the black community's response would be? Did he know that 381 days would pass before the Supreme Court would rule that segregation of the city's transit system was unconstitutional? Obviously not. The only thing Dr. King knew was that God called him to be there, and so he went. All right. Sounds simple enough, right? I believe there are so many lessons that we as individuals and too as a society can continue to learn from MLK. Up for debate, but I'd like to focus on 5 that I've come up with. One of his most used quotes is, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase." In this statement lies the first lesson. We must always maintain our belief that God is in control. If we act in a manner that glorifies our Lord, things will fall in line according to His timing. I'd like to give a brief aside here, very insignificant in terms related to Reverend King's legacy, but we can always apply these lessons to our own lives. I can use this example in numerous ways, but the most obvious right now would be to look to my journey as a first-year coach here at SIUE. We've struggled so far this year, more than I would have liked, but we have to continue to grind. And I have to continue to trust that our time is coming.
Yeah.
Galatians 6 verse 9 reads, "And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not."
Yes.
In order to make my next point, I've taken some quotes out of context from Dr. King's letter written from his Birmingham jail cell. This is a letter written in response to a public statement of concern issued by 8 white religious leaders of the South at that time. "Although I've changed the order, I don't believe I've altered its intended meaning." While addressing the leaders' concern over the timing of the black community's demonstrations, he said, "When you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, brutalize, and even kill your black brothers and sisters with impunity, when your wife and mother are never given the respected title of Mrs., while living constantly at a tiptoe stance and haunted by night, never knowing what to expect next." He was referencing the fact that justice too long delayed is justice denied.
That's right.
Basically saying that we had waited long enough. His feelings notwithstanding, he never wanted his children to clench hatred toward whites. He went on to give his state of mind when addressing issues with his children. Tongue-twisted as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she cannot go to a public amusement park that's just been advertised on television, and see tears welling up in her little eyes when she has been told that Funtown is closed to colored children, and to see her begin to distort her little personality by unconsciously developing bitterness toward white people. When you have to concoct an answer for a 5-year-old son asking in agonizing pathos, "Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean?" In these quotes rests our second lesson. Don't hold bitterness in your heart.
Right.
In Matthew 5, verse 39, Jesus says, "But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn to him the other also." In athletics, especially in the coaching profession, you live your life in a fishbowl, so to speak, with every decision magnified and analyzed. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but people don't always know or understand everything that goes into why certain decisions are made.
Yeah.
It would be easy for us as coaches to hold bitterness toward certain fan bases, certain news outlets, certain beat writers. However, we have to do our best to not let it impact our day-to-day lives negatively.
Amen.
I feel in this year of 2016, Dr. King's legacy and memory are needed as much now as they were then. It's astounding to me how history always has a way of repeating itself. In 1955, Rosa Parks was tired of her civil rights being disregarded, and she took a stand. Civil unrest ensued. Over half a century later, the black community is having the same feelings again. Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner,
Well,
Michael Brown,
all right.
Tamir Rice, and Freddie Gray. These names will forever be etched in history along with a new movement, Black Lives Matter. The difference in our era, social media posts and video coverage take our nation by storm in a matter of minutes. People react quickly without giving much thought to outcomes. This is why I urge us all to remember Dr. King's teachings. Let us think back to the outrage and riots of Ferguson, of Baltimore. In his I Have a Dream speech, King said, "In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds." Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on a high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. In a different speech, he said it more simply. "The reason I can't follow the old eye for an eye philosophy is it ends up leaving everyone blind." Our third lesson, stand firm on what you believe, but not by any means necessary. There will be a time in each one of our lives when our convictions are challenged.
Yes.
How will we respond? Let us remember Psalm 17, verse 6 for guidance. "I call on you, my God, for you will answer me. Turn your ear to me and hear my prayer." There were 4 steps involved with Dr. King's nonviolent campaigns. First, collection of facts to determine if injustice is present. Second, negotiation. Third, self-purification. Dr. King and others would put themselves through workshops in order to determine if individuals could accept blows and endure the ordeals of jail without retaliating. Fourth, they would take direct action. The aforementioned bus boycott, freedom rides, sit-ins, etc. MLK's first step in the nonviolent campaigns leads us to my opinion of the 4th lesson that he's taught us. Always gather facts and don't get caught up in popular opinion. Popular opinion has taken our nation and really the world by storm. I feel this is primarily due to the fact that the Christian church is taking a back seat as a result of society's hope to remove them from our culture. Dr. King stated in his letter, from the letter in the Birmingham jail, that early Christians and churches were not merely thermometers that recorded the ideas and principles of popular opinion. They were the thermostats that transformed the mores of society. He went on to say, "Things are different now. The contemporary church is so often a weak, ineffectual voice with an uncertain sound. It is so often the arch supporter of the status quo." In all actuality, this state of being consoles injustice. Very strong words, but naturally what he's referring to is the church's willingness to look the other way on white people's treatment of blacks during that time. But I feel these thoughts can be applied to most issues that we have at hand today as well. We, as believers, have to do our part to infuse new life into our churches. From 2010 to 2012, over half the churches in this country fail to add a single new member. In addition, hardly 20% of Americans attend church on a regular basis. These statistics were taken from the Hartford Institute of Religion Research. That being said, this lesson from King Jr. can be applied to more than just religious beliefs. Let's consider the courage that it had to take to stand against the powers that be, disregarding the fear, abuse, and danger for his family. Not only was he opposed by a majority of whites, but he also states in his same letter from his jail cell that he had to stand against the do-nothingist, as well as the black nationalists of his own race, in pursuit of the greater good for humanity. Think about that for a minute. When our Lord God has a plan, neither man nor anything can derail the train. God knows each of our destinies before we recognize them ourselves. As a youngster, King Jr. attempted suicide after misinterpreting his grandmother's death from heart attack to be his own fault. His home was bombed during the Montgomery bus boycott. During a book signing, he was stabbed with a letter opener. It later took 3 hours to remove from his chest, as it was just inches from his aorta. I imagine the death threats and hate mail is far too numerous to mention. These are examples for us to look to for encouragement, to continue pushing regardless of the obstacles we may face. Therein stands our fifth lesson. Martin Luther King Jr.'s foresight could only have come from God. How could one man see what he did? How could one man stay the course with all that opposed him? So often we allow ourselves to play victim of our circumstances, however big or small they may be. Dr. King was not of weak mind. He was not a victim. He made solutions. I'll leave you with one of my favorite MLK quotes. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands at moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. This was not meant to be a lesson on politics, nor my opinion on religion or race relations. I only wanted to reflect on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He greatly furthered a cause, but his dream is not yet realized. For example, to this day, only 22% of NCAA basketball coaches are black. Each of us has to do our part in our chosen fields to continue to build upon foundations Dr. King and others laid out for us. With each passing day, creating more opportunities, building new relationships, and providing strong examples for our youth to look to, just as we look to those that came before us. Again, I truly appreciate your time, and as well as the invitation to be with you today. Godspeed.